Welcome back to the Past My Prime YouTube channel. Dustin Prime here, and sorry I've been away for a little while. A lot of things have been happening with my family, we've been really busy, a lot of different events and things like that, and I've been super busy at work. I did get a new position, which has been great, but I have today off, and so I'm filming this video. And why do I have today off? Because government shutdown. Now, I don't work for the United States government, but the company I work for, our customer, is the government, and with them not being at work, it's affected us in some ways too. And I'm not the only one in this situation. If you're a federal worker, you might be furloughed right now, or you might be deemed critical and you're not getting paid, or you could be in my similar situation where you work for some sort of corporation that provides a service or a product to the government, and with them not being in the office, you're probably having some sort of impacts as well. And of course, with the current political climate that we're in, this is a huge topic. It's blowing up everywhere. You know, everyone wants to post about it. It's the constant topic in the news everywhere you look. And of course, there's a spin on both sides of the aisle. I feel like every day it gets harder to find the truth of what's really going on. So let's get right into it. And what is the current state that we're in with this government shutdown in the United States? Well, who knew? CNN is on TikTok.
The government is shutting down. So now what? And just how bad will it be for so many Americans who either work for the federal government or rely on government services? And what will it take to get out of it? Democrats have a series of demands that they say must be met before they vote for a bill to open the government. They want to extend expiring subsidies under the Obamacare program. They also want to reverse Medicaid cuts that were included as part of President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And they want some provisions or some reassurances that Donald Trump won't cut federal spending without the consent of Congress. But Senate Majority Leader John Thune told me that he will not negotiate with Democrats until they reopen the government first.
The negotiation happens when the government's open. So let's keep the government open, and then we will have the negotiation. I've said it yesterday at the meeting in the White House. I've said it to my Democrat colleagues.
Thune's plan put his bill for a straight extension of government funding for 7 weeks on the floor of the United States Senate again and again, and hope that Democrats ultimately cave. That means that Thune will need 8 Senate Democrats to agree to his bill in order to get it passed. But Democrats say healthcare must be addressed first before they agree to reopen the government. The last government shutdown occurred more than 6 years ago, and that lasted 35 days. Will this one last longer? The bill failed 55 to 45, meaning that Republicans need to pick up 5 more senators in order to break a filibuster. Just 3 Democrats voted for it.
So I didn't think there was too much spin there. It does sound accurate. You know, they are fighting for different sorts of healthcare or things that they're trying to include as healthcare on the Democrat side. And if you look at some of the comments, you do see stuff like this though, which is, it doesn't really help. You know, this commenter says, President, Republican, Congress, Republican, Senate, Republican, this is Republican shutdown. But it doesn't really work that way because you still have to have an overall majority vote to be able to get things passed. And right now it's stuck in the Senate. And what's funny is people put comments like this out there, but even there in CNN's own broadcasting, they are saying that the Republicans are voting for it, but they have to pick up more Democrats to be able to pass it through. So it is stalled out right now because they haven't been able to come to an agreement. They want to get some concessions in there instead of just opening up the government right away and then negotiating. I just think the politicians need to just get the government back open first, and then they can argue all they want. So yeah, hopefully they do pick up some more votes and just get that clean resolution going so at least things can start back up. Like, you can worry about the nitty-gritty afterwards. And that comment's kind of funny too because it says President Republican. Of course, they're talking about Trump. It just shows a lack of understanding for kind of how things have to happen as they're passing through up till it gets signed by the president. If they just had the president doing whatever he wanted, like he could just control this through an executive order, people would be absolutely livid from the side that hates him. And so if we just go through our standard format for how we conduct the government, it's like people just don't understand that and they don't like it. They think it's just somehow his fault, which is disingenuous to say this for any president. And this next guy, he's not CNN, but he's a pretty big creator, and I think he lays it out perfectly. Pretty calm, pretty collected, and he has a lot of the facts and data to kind of back up his part here.
Donald Trump and Republicans have shut the government down because they don't want to provide health care to working class Americans.
All right, let's break this down. First off, Donald Trump and the Republicans did not shut down the government. The clean continuing resolution passed in the House. Donald Trump is ready to sign it. Democrats are using the filibuster in the Senate to stop this from happening. The filibuster essentially means that senators can end debate on a topic indefinitely. And in order to break past the filibuster, you need to have 60 votes in the Senate. So Democrats are quite literally causing a shutdown because they want more spending on healthcare. But again, a clean continuing resolution is already passed in the House. Democrats are blocking it in the Senate. When I say clean, it essentially just means that they're going to continue to fund the government at its current levels just to keep the lights on. No policy changes,
Yeah,
not adding
just keep
anything,
things
just keeping
going
it
at
clean to
least.
keep people paid and keep the government operating. Democrats are saying no to that, and they're trying to use that as leverage to get policy changes because Congress controls the purse. So they're using this continuing resolution as leverage to get what they want. They're trying to jam their policies into a resolution to keep the government running. But now that I've said that, let's go back to what Hakeem Jeffries said again. I addressed the first part. Democrats have essentially stuck a piece of metal in the gears that were turning and are now blaming the gears. But let's get to the second half of what he said.
Donald Trump and Republicans have shut the government down because they don't want to provide health care to working class Americans.
That's a lie. We already addressed how they didn't shut the government down. Second off, he does want health care for working class Americans. They're talking about the cuts over the next 10 years that are happening with Medicaid. Now, mind you, around 90% of people are still expected to be covered. Do you know who the number one target of these cuts are? Able-bodied adults aged 19 through 64 without disabilities, dependents, or other exemptions. They are increasing work requirements for these individuals in order for them to qualify. If you don't have disabilities, children, or any other exemptions, why shouldn't you be working at least 20 to 30 hours a week to contribute to our society? You're just supposed to be able to sit back, not do anything, and then reap the rewards from other people's work? So no, Donald Trump very much wants working class people to be insured. He doesn't want people mooching off the system, and I don't blame him. Also, of our federal budget, about 13% of it goes to just interest on debt. Just for context, Medicare is 14% of our budget. So 13% of our budget is going to interest payments, and that rate is accelerating. So the government has to do something to get this interest under control. If they don't get interest payments under control, our government will spend more and more money on interest payments, and we won't have money for all these entitlement programs or our defense. So the government has to figure out a way to take on less debt and having more money to take on interest payments. The money has to come from somewhere. They're looking after the financial health of our nation.
So I agree with what Jeffrey's saying there, and I do kind of follow those facts. And what he was saying about the cuts, that 10% out of the 90% that would still be covered, those 10%, I mean, I kind of have seen that before too when I used to travel a lot for work. And a lot of people say this is a red state thing versus a blue state thing. I mean, it's just everywhere. There are a lot of cases where you'll see people get on these programs and they're completely able-bodied. Like, they have no reason to be on these programs besides just, hey, I was able to kind of push this through the system. I got approved for it, and now I just get these benefits. And I'll never forget, there was a time when I was in Kansas near Fort Leavenworth, because I was there for work, and there's like a big 7-Eleven right outside the gate, and I would go in there to grab some like food and drinks around lunchtime. And I remember at one point when I was in the line, like I had my stuff, I was getting ready to go up to pay, and one of like the locals walked in. And as soon as he walked in, you know, the cashier kind of knew and was like, hey, what's up, man? Hey, what's up? And the first thing he says is, man, just coming in to get some snacks because I just got that government check. Bruh. And I would routinely see that guy, that same guy, always in there, just like hanging out in the 7-Eleven. Like, he was a total regular, but he was never like working. And talking to some people in the area, they would say the same thing. But yeah, there's like so many people that are there just on assistance, but you can tell that a lot of these folks wouldn't need to be on the program. Like, they could totally be working. They could be working at the 7-Eleven. So I do agree with that. You know, if we can start wrangling back in some of that excessive spending that just goes out to people who don't really need the assistance and keep it for the people that actually do, that do have some sort of hard disability and really do need help, that would be a big win. Because yeah, at some point we have to start being able to wrangle in this interest that the debt of the country's in, because it's completely unsustainable. And one of the top comments on Jeffrey's video there, someone said, weird, because I'm a working class and the Democrats passed laws to fine me for not being able to afford healthcare back in the Obama era. And you can go back and look that up. There was a lot of conflict there because when the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, was first introduced, there were people who were kind of stuck in this middle ground where like they had to buy the healthcare. Like, they didn't have an option and they had to buy it. And if you didn't buy it, you were fined, which was a big issue with a lot of people's kind of like, you know, pushback against it, which was people's big problem. Like, why am I being forced to buy this? And if I don't, I'm fined. In essence, that was just another way to get taxed because that money was going straight to the government. So Jeffrey had a good video. Here's another one that has kind of a different take on it, and she talks about some of the impacts.
The federal government didn't clock in today, but I did. So here's how the government shutdown is going to impact you and your wallet. First and foremost, federal workers not getting a paycheck during this time period. Either you're going to be sent home or you're going to be asked to come in, but you're just not going to be paid. One of the biggest ways this impacts regular people is at the airport. Turns out TSA agents don't like coming to work when they're not being paid, which makes sense, but that does mean longer lines for you. And frankly, the FAA is already down bad. Any other funding lapses could really put it in a bad spot. Next, onto something lighter, SNAP benefits. USDA funds cover SNAP benefits for about a month into a shutdown, but any longer than that, and we might run out of funding. The longest government shutdown in history is 35 days, and it was under the same administration, but just last time. And this becomes a bigger issue because when these vulnerable populations can't get these basic necessities, they're gonna have to take out extra debt, either through the form of a predatory payday loan, or even just putting these charges on a credit card with a high interest rate. But maybe you're still optimistic, you're going on vacation soon. I hope it's not to a national park or the Smithsonian or the National Zoo, because all of those are closed. I hope you got travel insurance. And I have to talk about housing. HUD programs and housing assistance may be disrupted for low-income families. FHA loans may take longer to process and approve, meaning first-time homebuyers could miss out on the dream dream home. Simply put, a government shutdown leads to more market volatility and economic instability. With the worst part being, low-income communities will suffer the most while the president and Congress continue to get paid during this time.
So funny that she says same administration where the last government shutdown that was the longest happened to. And that is true. And I think you can all kind of understand the reason for that is because ever since Trump has been in office, his first term and his second term, there has always been conflict, and the two sides have never really gotten along. So yeah, we're right back in that same situation where they just hate each other and they are not working together. But like we said in the beginning, let's just get the freaking government back open, and then you guys can argue about the specifics afterwards. And she did mention SNAP and WIC, but Trump and the administration has said that they are going to find a way to get that paid, as well as paying the military too. And I'm recording this on a Thursday, and yeah, yesterday on Wednesday, the military did get their paychecks. Trump did sign an order, and so that was successful. But I think the biggest impact that people will see, especially like she did say, is if you're traveling, because the air traffic controllers, TSA, as they start to call out sick because they're not coming to work because they're not getting paid, there are going to be big problems. And they've already been apparent for the last week that the shutdown was going on, and we actually had some travelers for our company that were going out, and I was really hoping that they didn't get stuck anywhere due to delays or canceled flights, things like that. Luckily, they made it through. And she talks about parks and things like that, and it's like, yeah, you know, if you were planning on going out and visiting those, they do close up because the federal parks aren't going to be open because they don't have the employees to be open because they've been furloughed. So that really does suck because it's like, you know, if you were out of work and you didn't have something to do, you couldn't go possibly enjoy some of those parks that you might have near you. It's weird when you think about it. You can't go enjoy the nature in the parks because the gates closed just because some people aren't there. And so a lot of people are affected negatively, but you know who's affected positively? All the sorts of commentators and podcasters, streamers, all these people who are like political by nature and that's kind of their career. They love this type of stuff because it gives them so much content to talk about. And so here was like Ben Shapiro giving his take on it.
You're being lied to about the government shutdown. Here's the actual story. Something like $20 billion. That's the cost per year of healthcare for illegal immigrants in the country. The Vice President of the United States explained one of the big sticking points here is Democrats want funding for healthcare for illegal immigrants. The One Big Beautiful Bill made a provision, and it basically said Medicaid dollars, they can't go to the states, and then the states shift those dollars around, they use them for certain things, and effectively speaking, those dollars end up used for illegal immigrants. And so the One Big Beautiful Bill made a specific provision that banned healthcare for illegal immigrants. Democrats are now attempting to undo that, and the more honest Democrats will admit they're attempting to undo that. Now, listen, this is a country of Americans. America is a place that requires American citizens to be taken care of first. Federal taxpayer dollars obviously should not be used for illegal immigrant healthcare.
And so yeah, this topic of the healthcare for illegal immigrants, this has been the one that you've been seeing everywhere. Of course, people have vocal opinions about this. And like he did say there, what happens is some of that money that gets appropriated that goes out to the states kind of do like a shell game and they can kind of shuffle it around until it gets into some sort of program that they can then do whatever they want with. And we've seen this for a lot of things, not just like healthcare, you know, things like housing, different services and things like that. And this money ends up pretty much like untrackable and it's just gone. It's just more debt. I don't agree with Ben Shapiro on everything, but I mean, pretty accurate take. Like, we have so many freaking problems right now. Just help citizens first. And I think the big problem is it's so hard for just like the average American to get true info and data on like what is exactly happening. Like these 4 pieces of content we've looked at, you know, CNN, someone who's kind of like right-leaning, someone who's more left-leaning, and then like Ben Shapiro. But there's so much noise from both sides that it's like, to find the exact truth of what the holdup currently is so hard to do. But like we've heard, a lot of people are affected, and the people who are already furloughed, man, they're doing side hustles. And I can definitely appreciate that, and I mean, hey, they're trying to get paid.
Day 11 of the government shutdown, guess what? I had a DoorDash today. I ate DoorDash for 8 hours, guys. Guess how much I made, bitches? $231. Ooh, how'd I do that? Catering. Catering for people who buy money who's worth of $100+ at DoorDash. They tip well. So here's the tips, okay? Don't cherry pick. DoorDash has algorithms. They know how busy you are. If you are busy, they give you the good stuff, okay? I was busy. I was doing shop and pays. I was doing the bad orders. And when I did the bad orders, they gave me a catering order right after that. I did a bad order, sent me another zone. I got a Panera $200 Halloween birthday party order. Girl, I loved that money that came my way. I did more shop and pays at dinner. And then right after that, boom, Asian cuisine catering order. Another $20 tip. Amazing. And then I did some bad orders again. Boom, more catering. Hallelujah. $231 today. You can do it, girl. You know, this might be a new side hustle because, ooh, Hallelujah.
That's awesome. I mean, this guy, he's furloughed, and immediately, he's trying to pick up whatever sort of work he can. I mean, that is great. You would hope that everyone would have that type of work ethic to be able to kind of like keep going, not just like sit around. And you can kind of tell from like that guy's demeanor, like if he was someone who lost his job, like his government job, and he wasn't just on furlough, but he actually was like laid off or fired or something, you can tell he wouldn't be the guy just like sit around on unemployment. He'd be trying to do whatever he could to get more money flowing in, keep the money in the bank, find another job, doing a side hustle, all that stuff. And then what really sucks is you have people in the comments who just try to go like negative, like this right here. I mean, $231 deduct gas and wear and tear. It's like, what are you trying to tell him? Just like not to do this because there might be some small issues? And of course he says, yeah, except the wear and tear and gas is a write-off. And yeah, he can deduct that because he's using his vehicle to do the work. And there was a lot of other comments like that too, like, oh, that wasn't a lot of money for like 8 hours of work. But it's like, what do you expect this guy to do? I mean, he's furloughed, he's not getting paid, but instead of just saying he'll just do whatever he wants for his mental health, or, oh, I deserve this because I'm not getting paid, I mean, he's out there working, trying to keep bringing money in. So it's really like one of those like F the haters in the comments type moments. Like, dude, you keep doing you, you're doing yourself a favor, and especially if you have people that rely on you and you're still out there working, even if it's not as much money as you were making on your job that you're furloughed out of, I mean, more power to you, dude. Or as he would say, girl, get that money. So he's impacted, but it's not slowing him down. He's trying to keep things moving.
Day 15 of the government shutdown and me being furloughed. They voted again last night with no movement.
Yeah, no change in the vote.
I went to work out this morning and did yoga afterwards, which was so needed. We did about 10 minutes of just a quiet relaxation, and the instructor really talked life into me, what I really needed. Don't think about things you can't change. Don't stress over things you can't change. I needed that because coming on day 15, things are getting stressful. We did find out that my husband got paid this week. He is military, so thankfully we don't have to worry about that, but
military got
I have
paid.
no idea when I'm going back to work, when my next paycheck will be. This is hard knowing that the holidays are coming. This is the time of year that we start planning for Christmas and all of that, so that's kind of weighing heavy on me. So hopefully, if you're a government employee, federal employee, military, any of that, your family, I hope you're doing okay. Reach out if you need anything. I'm here. So just wanted to say hi, and I hope you all have a great Wednesday.
So a very holistic approach there. And in her situation, she's the federal employee who's furloughed, and her husband is in the military. So there was that question of if he was going to get paid or not. Well, the military did get paid on the 15th, so that's a win there. But most likely in her situation, that military pay isn't going to offset like their costs and standard of living with her not having an income coming in. But they have one source of income, so at least that's something, whereas like the other guy had to do some DoorDash. And so she's trying to take some time to herself, like she said, go out, do some yoga, kind of like have some conversations with people, really try to like get her mind straight, because there will be some people that this is like, not a big deal for them. They'll find a way to survive. And then there'll be other people who this is like really, really going to negatively impact them, totally stress them out, put a big hurt like in their life, in their mental health. So it's not just like financial impacts, like, there's like health impacts there too. And one of the comments on there, I'm trying to distract myself and stay focused by keeping my mind busy and reminding myself that I can't control this. Working out helps a lot. We'll get through this, and I'm praying it will end soon. And I agree with that. There's a lot of things that are going to come your way, not just in, this, but just in life in general. And there's things you can't control. Like, you really just have to try to forget about them, not stress about them at that moment. Like, instead, get some exercise, do some yoga, keep yourself busy, don't just sit around at this time. Make some YouTube videos, do some DoorDash, do what you can so you're not just focusing on like the negative. She's worrying about the holidays, starting to think about that. There is a lot to think about, but some stuff you just have to try to let go. But wait, if you're enjoying this video and the content we're covering today, hit that like button, subscribe, and then drop me a comment down below. Are you being affected by this government shutdown currently? Let me know. Now, back to the video.
So I woke up today furloughed by the federal government, which is a strange feeling. I doubt I'll be the only federal employee to talk about this today on this app, but I just wanted to come on here and say we're good.
Yeah, she's definitely not the only
Things
one.
are fine. We will weather this storm. We're in a great position to weather this storm just fine, but I know that there's a lot of federal employees who are going to be going through a really stressful time, who might find themselves in different circumstances than me and Nate at this exact moment. So if anything, like, we understand why this is happening, but I guess I just wanted to come on here because I want people to see the faces of the federal employees that are caught in the middle of all this and humanize us a little bit and remind you that we're not just some theoretical idea. We really do go and work and are proud and happy to work for you every day. I think I might start like a series on what I'm doing during my days, just for something to do as I wait to go back. Depending on how long this goes, I think there's a good chance I will be in the office actually for part of this, which I'm happy about. Of course, I won't be getting paid for that, but I want to work. That's who I am. I guess follow along because I'm going to probably be posting quite a bit more. But yeah, it's crazy times out there. Absolutely wild.
Not just her. There was a lot of people on TikTok and different social medias who were all saying that same thing. Like, oh, I'm going to turn this furlough experience into like a series, almost doing, you know, a vlog. For each different day that goes by, I'll be sharing like what I'm doing, how I'm surviving during this period where I'm impacted by the government shutdown. And honestly, it's a great idea because some of these creators will be making, you know, a substantial profit and having some money come in from doing TikToks and things like that. Like her videos and the DoorDash guys' videos, I mean, they get a lot of views and they're at that point to where they can get monetized. So they're having some sort of income come in just from being able to turn this negative like into a positive. And even if that's not what she wants to do, eventually she said she just wants to go back to work, you know, get back to normal, which I would agree is probably like everyone. But I think it would be good to have some sort of outlet like this, you know, whether it be just a social media or people you might know. Just don't be by yourself at this time, you know, talk to people, get out there, have some sort of experience, you know, make the most of this as you can. Hell, maybe you'll blow up on TikTok and then you won't even have to worry about your federal job.
Quick FYI, President Trump is doing the absolute most for women, children, and military members during this government shutdown. Yes, the government is still shut down because Democrats have voted no for the 8th time on a continuing resolution that would fund our government. Because remember, the government can't operate if workers aren't being paid and programs aren't being funded. And side note, it's the same exact continuing resolution, aka funding bill, that Democrats have already voted yes on 13 times before. But anyway, it's all fine for now because President Trump just said that he was going to somehow reroute all available funds to get our troops paid by October 15th. Somehow they found the funds to do it, so the military members who were going to go without a paycheck are now getting paid. Donald Trump just said we have to make it happen somehow. He's also somehow channeling tariff revenue to the women, infant, and children's food program, so that doesn't run dry. So that's all excellent. But remember, if Democrats and Republicans would just work together to get the government open, we wouldn't have to worry about women, children, infants, and military members going without food. But apparently this is why nobody can come to an agreement. This is insane, because apparently Democrats, to keep the lights on and open up the government, they want to add this to the continuing resolution, that funding bill I was talking about. I wish I had my glasses. They want to add $24.6 million to climate resilience in Honduras, $13.4 million to civic engagement in Zimbabwe, $3.9 million to LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Balkans, $2.9 million to desert locust reduction in Africa, and then $2 million to organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. Is that necessary? No thanks. Hey, that's really dumb. Open the government. This is stupid.
Like she listed some of that stuff in the end that you're trying to put into the continuing resolution bill to kind of reopen the government. But it's like none of that stuff is needed. Just please leave that stuff out. Just get the government back open so then we can continue debating for all these different sorts of stuff afterwards. Like locust reduction in Africa, do we really need money right now going to that? Do we need to be talking about that right now while the government is closed? Yeah, giving money to different groups in like the Balkans, like no, we don't care about that. $24 million to a climate thing in Honduras. It's like, what are we doing here? And you know, there's Congress people and senators on both sides that always try to get this stuff stuffed into these bills, then just get them passed through in times that are critical like this. And it's like, no, just forget about that type of stuff and just get the freaking government open right now. Luckily enough, the military was able to get paid the SNAP and WIC for people who have like, you know, infants and things like that. They can get some money to get groceries, formula, that type of stuff. Like, we really need to be focused on the important things right now. So yeah, like she said, that's dumb. Just get the government open. So this is a trying time. You know, there's a lot of resentment, conflict, you know, hurt feelings, people trying to do what they think is right, but they might have like emotion and bias involved. It's hard to get to the truth of exactly what's going on. Doesn't matter which sort of news platform or media you go to, there's always a spin on something. And meanwhile, just so many people are being affected by this shutdown in one way or another. So hopefully Republicans and Democrats can come to some sort of agreement and get the freaking government back open and at least get the funding going again. If not for everyone's sake, but then also because we won't have to see this stuff on like social media anymore. Be one less headache and stress to have to deal with. And then maybe I can go back to work too, not have to waste my PTO hours sitting at home making YouTube videos. But I'll probably like cut the grass and do some yard work and stuff as well. But that does it for this one. If you enjoyed the content we covered today, hit that like button and subscribe so we can hang out again. Plus, if you leave a comment below, I totally appreciate it because it really helps small YouTube channels. And YouTube thinks you'll like this video right here, so give it a watch if you have a second. Until then, I've been Dustin Prime, you've been you, and people, there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and there's a lot of things you just can't control. So focus on what you can do, keep pushing forward, and hopefully the government opens back up soon. I'll see you in the next one. Later.